Welcome. On behalf of the team Maine Poetry Express Waterville, welcome, welcome, welcome. We're really happy you're here. My name is Tammy Rabideau. I am a librarian at the Waterville Public Library. I'm fiercely proud of that. We're in a cheerful library. I am one of the coordinators of this event, and we are very thrilled that you're all here with us tonight. With us tonight is a very special guest. He will help us to both kick off this event as well as National Poetry Month. Most of you probably know that April is National Poetry Month. Maine Poetry Express is his initiative, and that would be the Maine Poet Laureate Wesley McNair. Wes has said that the primary goal of the Maine Poetry Express is to show that poetry belongs not only to literary specialists, but to all of us. Wes is the author of 20 books, including 10 volumes of poetry, 3 books of nonfiction, and several edited anthologies. His most recent book is The Lost Child, Ozark Poems, available for checkout at the Waterville Public Library or for purchase at your local bookseller. Wes has been called by poet Philip Levine one of the great storytellers of contemporary poetry. He has won grants from the Rockefeller, Fulbright, and Guggenheim Foundations, and 2 NEA grants in creative writing. He has twice been invited to read his poetry by the Library of Congress. In 2006, he was selected for a United States Artist Fellowship as one of America's finest living artists. He is our Poet Laureate of Maine. One of my favorite Wes quotes goes like this, and it usually makes me feel choked up when I read it in public. I'm drawn over and over to poetry's abiding spirit of affirmation and loving vision. Every single poem is a change of mind or a change of heart for both the reader and the writer. Wes.
Tammy, thanks for inviting me to guest on your show once again by reading an introductory poem. I don't know if you guys realize this, but this event, this community poetry contest, is the only one in the state of Maine, and I'll bet there are very few, if any, in New England itself. So I think Tammy and her committee deserve a round of applause. And that round of applause, let's say, was for the city of Waterville as well. It's quite a distinction, I think. Of course, I'm Poet Laureate, so I value poetry, and I'm kind of biased. Ladies and gentlemen, I stand before you tonight as a poet, but this was not always so. When I was a young man, just having graduated from college, I harbored a dream of becoming a poet. In fact, I thought it might be nice to go out to the University of Iowa, where they were offering for the first time this thing called MFA in creative writing. I'd go out there and learn how to write poetry in Iowa, but that's not what happened. What happened instead was I got married and I started a family and I had hardly any time to write poetry. So what I did was to take books of poetry out of the library, books of poetry written by the then hot poets. They happen to be university poets, academic poets. They were often pictured wearing tweed jackets with elbow patches. Does anybody remember those elbow patches? And they were always smoking pipes, and they were always guy poets. I couldn't afford the tweed jacket with the elbow patches, but I could afford the pipe. And as you can imagine, that pipe was a very valuable instrument for me in that period. So this poem that I want to kick things off with is a poem about that pipe. It's called The Future. Married that young, with 3 children and another on the way, I lived far from the still, beautiful place where writers and scholars were photographed in the early 1960s. So I studied each detail of it from their dust jackets, the neat spines of books arranged around them as they sat contemplating something at the edge of the picture frame in their sweaters or tweeds, pipes in their hands. Buying a pipe to hold in my hand too, I couldn't quite get over the taste of tar. And when I puffed it in a calm, unhurried way, I imagined it always went out. Which was why I tapped it that day on the wastebasket behind me, not exactly in a university office, but in my home room at the high school, where I sat contemplating the conundrum of Brian and Brenda, who had asked what was going to happen to their dreams for the future now that she was pregnant. They, so intent on my answer, I trying one more time to puff on my pipe. Nobody saw the light behind me at first. Then my two students, who had thought it was cool to have a teacher who helped solve their problems and lit his pipe up right in school, began to shout at me until I turned, and we all watched the wastebasket seem to lift up with the flames that rose to the blackboard, then fell to sparks floating among random wisps of gray. And just like that, we're gone. So there, up in smoke, went the contents of that wastebasket. There, up in smoke, went my dream of becoming an academic poet. Turned out if I were going to write poems at all, I would have to get my poems from the world outside university walls, from the grit of everyday life, everyday experience, which in fact is just where poems ought to come from. So you see, I was saved from my own dream of becoming a poet. And I began to make my poems from scratch about the things around me, whatever it was that inspired me, without a program. And since many, if not most of you all here who are going to read poems have created your poems from scratch too, I feel I'm in very good company tonight. So I read that poem in your honor, and I look forward to hearing the poems you've written too. Thank you all.
Thank you, Wes. This evening is a very exciting culmination of several months of intensive, dedicated work by a team of people with a fervent love for poetry being accessible to all. The purpose of our Maine Poetry Express Waterville is to shine a light of awareness on poetry in the mid-Maine region, to come together as a diverse community to celebrate poetic thoughts, and to bring recognition to our area of poets of all ages. And we thank you all for being here to appreciate them. Tonight is our third annual Maine Poetry Express Waterville. We will hear from readers from as young as third grade through adult, college, and high school level as well. We had 66 mid-Maine poets of all ages submit over 150 poems for this event, and our poetry readers were chosen by a blind review of independent judges. A lot of people go into making these events happen, and I'm going to thank some folks. That's a very important part of any event. Thank your sponsors and all your supporters. The organizers for this event were Patricia Burdick of Colby College Special Collections. Unfortunately, Patricia's unable to join us this evening because she's not feeling well. Sherry Pino Brown is here tonight. She's with Waterville High School. She's a creative writing English teacher, and she was one of our judges and also coordinated the National Honor Society students who came in to set up chairs. We're very thankful for that, and they're coming back to take the chairs down. So no task goes unnoticed. Jennifer Olson of Waterville Main Street is one of the organizers of this event, and I want to give a very special thank you to a significant financial sponsor, and that would be the Colby College Center for Arts and Humanities. I don't think Carol is here. He had a competing event tonight, but Carol O'Neill is the director of that program, and he really helped us out to provide the food that you have in the back of the room and the sound. So we're thankful for that. Sayla Tea provided the wonderful refreshments in the back room. We hope you'll enjoy those at the break. And thank you to the Hathaway Creative Center. They allow us to use this room without charge, and we're very grateful for that. And specifically Rick and Jerry here at the Hathaway. We also want to thank the following individuals. Sarah Rustinen, she's here in the room somewhere. She's a newcomer to Waterville. We're very grateful that she's here. And she was a judge and has also helped out in the planning of this event. Kelly Metchling, whom I've never met. Are you in the room? Kelly is at Thomas College. She was a judge. Serena Sanborn Phipps, I saw her. She was a judge for tonight's poets. Tom Creeley is an English teacher at Waterville High School. Brooke Fairbanks is a Colby College student who was also a judge. Sarah Taylor from the Waterville Public Library. She was a judge, and she's really been doing a lot of running for the event, so thank you for that. Mike Morrison here is our sound technician, and I think we've got everyone. So that's very important to do that. I think I've been accused of being an overthinker more than once, so thank you for that. We're going to jump right in, but on behalf of the Waterville Public Library, I have to represent the library because the library invests a lot in my time to help coordinate these events. And I wish to convey that we are absolutely delighted to have these mechanisms of empowering our people and strengthening our community. It's very much to the core of what we are. And thank you to Wes McNair for providing this vehicle to make this particular one come to be. So, thank you. Part of what we're doing here with the riser is we have 3rd and 4th graders who are not of the height and stature of you and me, which is not much, but at least I can stand behind the podium. We're going to be moving the podium back and forth, particularly in the first half. So I'm going to step aside and Mike's going to move it forward while I introduce Alexa DeWitt, who is a 4th grader at the Hall School here in Waterville, and she is going to read her poem, Nature. Each of the poets have been asked to share a few words about what poetry means to them, and then to read the poem, and Alexa is the first one.
I enjoy writing poetry because it is a good way to express feelings and it helps me take my mind off of anything bothering me. Another reason I like to write poetry is because I can challenge myself. I can also be free and creative. Nature. Look at the dazzling sun, the puffy white clouds up in the sky. See the rushing river water. Smell the remainders of rain. Feel the misty green grass. Watch the colorful and wild horses galloping around the field. Little bunnies hopping happily. See the nature, see its features. Nature is gorgeous. Factories polluting our air, destroying our nature, destroying the world. So appreciate nature. Enjoy the world. Don't be one to destroy, be one to enjoy.
I don't know what poetry means to me. I thought about writing a poem about it, actually, but then I realized that I was supposed to read this one. The Single Digits of January. We fell into July like children into a pool. We were children, really, but I didn't like to swim in, you didn't like to be without me. August came and school started. We were angsty teenagers once again. What color is a pill bug when it's sick? The answer had been blue, but I hadn't been focusing on blue. I had been focusing on the brown of your eyes instead. September and October passed by, autumn leaves falling outside my window as I stared anxiously at a screen, waiting for 4:45 the second you would get out of school. Early November, I got on a plane and flew over 2,000 miles, and I was too excited to pay attention to the gorgeous rising sun. The roses you gave me had petals like the autumn leaves that I failed to notice the months before. We parted ways and I flew back, crying myself to sleep, head leaned against the cold window, wishing that it could be your warm thigh once more. December brought snow and Hanukkah too. Just like little kids, we only made it to night 5 before opening all of the presents from each other. I stuck the bows into my hair and you folded the wrapping paper into a makeshift ruler, and we pondered late into the night just how many wrapping paper rulers were between our 2 states. January arrived, and since we weren't together, at midnight, 11 p.m. your time, you texted me a picture of a silver-wrapped Hershey's Kiss and told me, "Happy New Year." And I was happy, elated even. We had only 30 days left of January, 28 of February, and 3 weeks of March until we would be able to see each other again. Now it'd only be 19 days, had you not told me. The single digits of January, the 3rd, 4th, I don't know, is when I fell out of love. I think about all I missed, the leaves, the sunrise, the shade of the sick pillbug, and I realize those must have been beautiful too. But extraordinate colors, you see, they have nothing on you.
A 5th grade homeschooler from Sydney. She's going to read her poem, A Slave's Life in the Field.
Poetry to me is a way to express my feelings of my life and all that I learn about. I like to relax in my room and just think about things. That is when ideas come to my mind for my poems. A Slave's Life in the Field was inspired by my love of history. Specifically, I'm passionate about American Civil War history. I feel a deep empathy for what it must have been like to be a slave who was forced to live and to die picking cotton on a southern plantation. A slave's life in the field, working all day, stopping at night, having no education, can't learn to write, wearing only rags, overseers whip us if we lag, our feet burning in the hot ground, getting brutal beatings on our backs. We can't never relax. Our bodies freezing in the cold, our bodies are bold. Families split in half, slave owners laugh. Her sons, daughters, relatives sold away, seen again in heaven, our luckiest day we pray. We eat almost nothing at all. Some die of hunger well at work, we are still whipped after we fall. Our only hope is look up north, oh so far, looking towards the northern star.
Our next reader is Doug Woodsum from Smithfield. He will read Wood Stacking Songs.
Looks good. Thank you. Why I write poetry, what poetry means to me. I grew up in a home where my sisters and I were encouraged to be creative. My parents would always say, make us something for a Christmas gift or birthday gift, don't buy it. Including homemade cards that had sing-song rhymes on them sometimes. My dad and my sisters and I would make little recordings. So I learned how to play with words early. My teachers encouraged that. And lucky me. That's why I write. What poetry means to me, it's my camera. I've never had a camera. I use my poetry for my camera. It's my therapist, it's my journal. It's how I connect to people, like I hope to make at least 1 or 2 connections tonight. It's how I connect with poets from the past and their lives. Poetry is my playmate. And one of my favorite definitions of poetry is playing with words. That's how I was raised, and not all of my poems, but some of them have a little playfulness in them. And I like to think this one does too. Woodstacking song. Sing back, sing, that sweet, warm note, that small pain like a blue jay's cry. Sing, quadriceps, sing, like a wad of violin strings, cordage or cables between hip and knee. Sing, bones and joints, with a percussive pop and a click in the neck like a castanet. Oh, what a chorus we are, sing the bones to the flesh. Oh, what a chorus we are. That is no horsehair bow on a catgut string. That is a splinter going in. Sing, oh sing. As the vertebrae hum, lift with the legs, and the biceps bulge like small kettle drums, the heart beats staccato and makes the ears ring, so the brain feels no pain. Lift and stack, it sings.
Our next poet is Mila Barnes-Euchre. Mila is a third grader at Mount Vernon Elementary. She's going to share her poem, Running.
I like poetry because it makes people think about things in a way that they didn't think about it before. And I'm going to read a haiku called Running. Running. A black and white horse, speeding through the long, tall grass, tries to run faster.
Our next poet is Elise Ozerwowski. She is a senior at Colby College and is originally from Massachusetts. She will read her poem, Left.
I write poetry just for fun and also because it allows us to make sense of the very human thing of feeling. And there's nothing better when you're struggling through a line trying to find that one word and you finally get it. But it usually takes forever and it never feels finished. So this is blessed. Once upon a time, a little girl grew with poems in the creases of her knuckles, and one folded into the scar beneath her hair. They told her, share, speak, give, and she did. They told her, not enough, more simile, and that gave her a paper cut on the lining of her esophagus. 793 poems, little clouds of shapes forming letters, forming words, forming feeling, the commodity of pain. They told her how lucky you are, so blessed with the gift of 4 funerals before age 6. A tear wrapped itself around her last word. Aerial silk suspending an acrobat, falling through lines.
Our next poet is Jonathan Ecker-Mullally. He's a 4th grader at Mount Marcy in Waterville. He will read his poem, Zebras.
Why I read poetry, I like to play with words. And I like to read my poems. Horses of Africa calmly graze, as they have done for many days. Their zigzag patterns make them unique. opposite colors, soft and sleek.
Our next poet is Adelia Sheck. She's a 12th grader at Waterville High School whose reader calls Eyes.
So I guess I'll start by saying that two other ways that I like to express myself are I like to talk a lot, I like to have conversations with people, and I like to play music. But I find that as much as I do these two things, I always feel like there is something that is kind of left unsaid that I still want to say. So I write poetry because it's an outlet for the things that I wouldn't necessarily say directly to a person, but on the other hand, I also wouldn't express in an abstract way, like through music. So this is my poem called Eyes. 1. This is what she will do. She will reach out to you that you may feel that she will never die. And once you feel that, you'll feel like Hermes left you behind, or something like that, because the point is, you are in hell, yet it looks like her eyes. 2. It's hard for me to tell what you're thinking, and I've never understood what people mean when they say they can tell by your eyes. My eyes are eyes, and they give away nothing but how much I love you when I look in the mirror and see you standing in the doorway with your toothbrush. 3. She's dancing a boogie with the devil, like that girl with the red shoes in that book who never did anything to deserve such a fate. But I believe she did, that one dancing the boogie over there, and I wonder where those red shoes are now, and I wonder whether the devil's already fitted them to her feet. 4. In the morning, dew melts from your tongue and into the garden outside the house. Oh, honey, have you slept outside again? I can hear the dew dripping from my window. That's how loud it is. Louder than the frat boys across the street last night. Come on now, wipe the dew from the buttons of your pajamas. Come inside. 5. One day, I left you for dead on the side of a road that is now weaving through my brain. That was 20 years ago today. Guess you didn't think you'd be remembered that way. Guess you didn't think you'd be remembered that way.
That was the first half of our poetry readings. We have some lovely refreshments in the back. We want to take a quick break and allow you to grab some refreshments. And, we'll come back in about 10 minutes. That's what I was looking for. Hi, Mike. Lemon squares are awesome. I'm really impressed with the refreshments that we were provided. We had a very paltry budget, and Selah Tea went well above and beyond. So please support Selah Tea. They've been just terrific. We had virtually no money to give them. We're going to mix things up and provide something for you tonight that is not on your program, and I'm trying to find her. There she is, great. So Izzy Labby is a junior at Waterville High School, and many of you have probably heard of the Poetry Out Loud competition in the state of Maine. Izzy was our Poetry Out Loud regional champion. We've asked her to recite one of her poems.
Mention something about the Poetry Out Loud program. For those of you who are unfamiliar with it, basically what it is students in the state of Maine, I know in Waterville, and I think most other schools, every year in your English class you are asked to select a poem from an anthology online, memorize it, and then recite it in your classroom. And the winners of that classroom competition go on to a school competition, and the winners of all the English classes in the school compete and read their poems, and then the winners of those go to the regional competition, and there's a northern and a southern regional competition. There are 5 winners selected from those, and then they go to states. And the state winner wins $500 and a stipend of money to buy poetry books in their classroom. and they get to go to nationals in Washington, D.C., which is really cool. The winner of states this year is named Rose Horowitz. She's from Mount Ararat High School, so that's really cool. So Poetry Out Loud's a really cool opportunity. And I was lucky enough to be able to make it to the state competition this year, which was at the Waterville Opera House. It was very fun. So I'll recite my second poem from that, which is Very Large Moth by Craig Arnold. After DHL. Your first thought when the light snaps on and the black wings clatter about the kitchen is a bat. The clear part of your mind considers rabies. The other part does not consider, knows only to startle and cower away from the slap of its wings, though it is soon clearly not a bat, but a moth, and harmless. Still, you are shy of it. It clings to the hood of the stove, not black, but brown. Its orange eyes sparkle like televisions. Its leg joints are large enough to count. How could you kill it? Where would you hide the body? A creature so solid must have room for a soul. And if this is so, why not in a creature half its size, or half its size again, and so on, down to the ants? Clearly, it must be saved. Caught in a shopping bag and rushed to the front door, afraid to crush it. Feeling the plastic rattle, loosened into the night air, batters the porch light, sending fitful shadows around the landing. That was a really big moth, is all you can say to the doorman who's watched your whole performance with a smile. The half compassion and half horror we feel for creatures we want not to hurt and prefer not to touch.
Our next reader is Hannah McQuarrie. She's a junior at Colby College, originally from New Hampshire. She's going to read her poem, Down on the Dock.
So I guess when thinking about kind of what poetry means to me, I guess I started it all out because I was feeling really restless and I didn't really know how to articulate or express anything that's going on. I felt like I didn't have the means to, and I entered a poetry class and suddenly it was there, and that was great. And that's not to say necessarily that all of these feelings of restlessness have gone away, but hopefully that's the direction that my poetry will take me. So, yes, this is Down the Dock. We're sitting at the edge of this wall with our feet in the water, kicking up specks of light that have been left behind by the sun as it's slowly fallen against the horizon. And my head hollow is set and thinking, oh, how nice it would be to tuck myself beneath you at night and go with you where you wander. And you're telling me about the freckles in your eyes and how you feel them light up when you look at me. I'm wondering if, with your arm around my back, you feel too the way I ache from the child's side of my chest each time you spill out backhanded promises of a someday together, of how you've saved me a seat beneath the sycamore's branches on a blanket with you and your Merlot mouth. And then there's that scar on your thumb, the one that I gave you. And me, a silly girl me, I'm relieved to know that I have hurt you too, deeply enough to have lasted so long. Its sickle shape will always cradle your knuckle. Resting my head on your shoulder, I reach for your hand to kiss that mark, giving thanks to its permanence, reminding myself that it will still be there, even when your someday comes, long after you've left me.
Our next poet is Eileen Rainford Smith. She's a fourth grader at Mount Marcy. She will read her poem, A is for Animal.
I like to write poetry because it's fun and I like to write about animals. This is my poem, A is for Animal. Animals are everywhere. Buffaloes are in the air. Cats are yapping, dogs are flapping. Elephants are eating pears. Fish are swimming with no cares. Goats' heads are clapping. Hippos are tired and napping. Iguanas don't have hair. Jaguars are rare. Koalas are mad and snapping. Lions are tapping. Mongoose are not mares. Narwhals have lots of legs. Orcas are laughing. Puffins are not zapping. Quails don't like to take dips. Roosters are not fair. Snakes are not dashing. Toucans are not flashing. You now know most of the zoo. Don't you know I care? Vultures don't wear underwear. Whales are clashing. Xavier, Billy, and Joe are lashing. Yaks don't have affairs. Zoos are cool, but this one does not have bears.
Our next reader is Brianna Kaneki. Did I get it right? Brianna is an 8th grader at Madison Junior High, and she's going to read her poem, Tribulation.
The main reason I love poetry is for poetry does not have to have a climax or plot or resolution. It is a way to make us think about what is said, so we end up with different interpretations about it. Tribulation. The day has come, this revelation. So hope, dear friend, you have salvation. From hence the fires of 7 years come. Sorrow and mourning have only begun. Let not your soul dwindle upon the earth. From the rages of deep will there be a curse. Heaven's glory will never be caged, so let your soul glide into some rage. Born again into dark light, heart and mind wither alike. Will he come out dreadfully cogent? All will see Satan in that moment. The Lamb of God will step forth, so valiant and pure as the north. The seal and scroll will be unfolded. Upon the earth will horse be forded. Sweeping through, God's judgment reigns. But dear friend, know there will be pain. Horse and rider, white, red, black, and pale, will earth tumble and fall from whose gale. Though evil and sin will invade the skies, pure and steadfast are his eyes. Piercing through the deepest black will be the end to this dreadful act. Through all the pain and sorrows meet, 1,000 years dare not compete. The shining sun rule and rebuild, earth and heaven forever be tilled.
Matt Bernier from Pittsfield, Maine will read his poem, The Unfinished Business of Winter.
Okay, what poetry means to me, I wrote a little something about that, and that poetry is a good way to break up a chaotic world into manageable pieces for me, and helps me understand complexities like nature, love, death, weather, and politics. I like the succinctness of poetry. Done well, a poem is just the right length, like a winter that knows when to leave. Even with a difficult poem, there's storminess for a page or two, something to shovel through. But the next poem might be the one that quickly melts your heart. So this is The Unfinished Business of Winter. The poet hated to see spring come outside his kitchen window, lines and margins now etched in the blank page of a snowy field, muddied by words. Purple finches spilling into feeders like flourishes of purple prose. Harsh consonants sung in the rain as they fling seed around to blossom as thistles in summer. In the woods, the sappy maples weep from injuries of ice storms and missing limbs, only to be edited into something sticky and sweet when spring is finally published. The poet has unfinished business with Maine winter. Words unspoken when a piece of tamarack in the fireplace popped, showering sparks beyond the brick hearth, as his guest flinched, then leaned closer and laughed. And now, in the judgment of longer days, he thinks of the snow-covered roads that kept them together that evening, as an empty sketchbook, no one wanting to make the first mark. Flipping through the pages reminds him of winter and being startled by warmth.
And Brittany Olson of Dixmont, Maine will read The Border.
I promised my sister I wouldn't say foolish things. However, I will tell you that as far as poetry is concerned, I firmly believe that it is magic. I believe the words with which it is constructed are magic. I have been a teacher for more than half my life, and I hope that I have conveyed some of that magic to some people. But I had the great good fortune a little while ago to meet some young people over here who have as their English teacher a boy who was once in my class, who's now teaching them, and I'm so excited about that. So here's a scary poem for you. It's called The Border. The wood is haunted. Dead children play there, and you hear them laugh, but not in fun, as they flit through the trees. Girls in floating white dresses, boys in short pants. In the background, a cello in a minor key, bow scraping, or perhaps it's the wind. Below, the lonely houses huddled together, cold and dark, trying not to attract the attention of the ghost town at the ridge. This pathway is forbidden, foreboding, and at the crack of a branch, you whirl, eyes wide, breath harsh, looking for that one thing you will not see over your shoulder.
Sarah Libby is an 11th grader at Waterville Senior High, and she will share her poem, This Is For You.
I love poetry because it can be anything. You don't have to follow the rules of literature, you can just write whatever you want. I think that's the point of poetry, it's art. My poem's called This Is For You. This is for you, the one with your eyes on these words. Listen now, because this is your chance. You don't have to be alone. Are you a boy that refuses to cry? Are you angry and can't find reasons why? Are you a girl with a broken heart? Did someone you love cause all of those scars? Are you small? Are you human? Because I know how that feels. Come to me. Dare to say one word to me. I will be your diary. Are you a bully begging to not feel alone? Are you trying to see if they'll stay anyway? Because I would. Are you shy? Are you guilty? Are you sad? Are you angry? If you are any of those, know you're not alone. These words could never explain how much you mean to me. I'd spend hours listening and more hours writing, telling you that you are not nothing. You are everything, and you are perfect to me. Push me away, and I will stay. Forever I will be just a phone call away. This is for you, the one silently wishing for help while reading these words. Listen now, because this is your chance. You don't have to be alone.
John Tortorello is a senior at Colby College. He is originally from Massachusetts. I'd like to add he is a physics major. And he's going to read his poem, Name.
So I could say I like poetry for a lot of reasons. Sometimes you just have something you want to say, and the only thing you can say it to is a piece of paper. And it's also just a reminder that like a lot of things in life, we try to talk about them with words, and sometimes you just need something else like music to help you express that. So, I like poetry. So this poem is, so something I wrote a while ago actually, and it's about a lake in the Adirondacks, and it's called Maine. When I live in the mountains that live in me shed flakes, like hot house paint baked by the sun, piling up on the earth like dry needles, buried in pine cones picked at by squirrels. Sappy needles will stick to the bottom of bare feet like a nail in our house, exposed over time as the paint flakes away. A nail that my grandfather hit with his hammer before he knew anything more than the mountains. When a wave laps my toes like Russell's sheepdog lifts my legs after a long salty run over unsalted gravel up hills so much steeper than this roughest strip of asphalt in Massachusetts, I know that these sand grains that touch everybody around this great puddle, and at the twitch of a neuron I can paddle past every stick on the shore, step out and stand somewhere that no one else has ever stood. How I hunger for the hum of the Johnson 9.9 when it burns away the hours of summer like the 20-foot bonfire lights the tips of evergreen branches like joints, till their smoke billows high to the billions and millions of burning gas dots in the midnight sky, each one tugging at the next sunrise like the pull cord of the morning engine. When the loon calls before I drift into dreams, the long, lonely note begs the question, why must it sing night after night to the emptiness of the rippling lake, who steps with the pens on the daily rain, who sucks what sinks and spits what floats, who trembles in tumultuous winds and always lets out the river it lets in, but never changes its name.
Thank you all so very much for participating in honoring, listening, and bearing witness to the tremendous expressions of the creative spirit shared here tonight. What I meant to say at the top of this, that when we put these events together, really the moment that anybody's thinking about poetry, we've won. So, you know, there were selected readers, but the point of this is to increase the engagement with poetry in our community. And I believe we succeeded tonight. I want to thank all of the poets. One more round of applause for them. The last thing I want to share, Wes is still with us, and if I may say something about the April 7th event. Each year, the Maine Poet Laureate has hosted a, it's called what's it called? Annual Poetry Day, right? And in the past, it's been by invitation only, an event held at the Blaine House. This year, in the spirit of Wes's entire Poet Laureateship, which is all about the poetry being for all of us people, he has set up an event that is open to the public. It's free. It will be on Tuesday, April 7th at 2:30 p.m. at the Hall of Flags, the State House in Augusta. And we're all encouraged to attend. This concludes our program tonight. I encourage everyone to be safe and have a great night.